Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here, and I want to welcome you to episode 8 of this new Thrive Today podcast, Relational Skills in Real Life. I'm glad you're here. Today's focus is on a very important skill. In fact, one of the most important skills of all the 19 skills, which is quieting, what we call skill 2, quieting, calming, resting. How do we take that relational pause, and why is quieting the loudest thing that you do? Very, very interesting already. I can't wait to hear this. So, why is quieting so important? Well, frankly, your nervous system and your body have to take some time out, some pause, some rest. And what happens when you practice skill, what we call skill 2, simple quiet, is it's the on demand release of serotonin. So, serotonin does a number of important things, but one of the things it does, it helps us to feel calm and peaceful. So as the day goes on and we start getting closer to bedtime, our serotonin levels start to increase and we start feeling a little bit sleepy, a little more, just ready for some rest, right? Feel a little more peaceful maybe. And so what happens is if your nervous system doesn't learn to quiet, doesn't learn to rest, what happens is you avoid that state. And that's where we see people overworking or using addictions in some way, shape, or form to bring them down, so to speak. And so they just can't calm down, and we avoid resting, we avoid quieting. And friends, the greatest predictor for lifelong mental health really is how well we can down regulate to low energy. So for some of us, it's easy to build lots of high energy joy. We like to go, 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 but we don't rest, we don't quiet. And so we're going to focus today on my friend Lori. And Lori is someone that she never learned to quiet. Her family didn't really rest. They used lots of substitutes. And Lori learned really to get kind of be an anxious presence. And in other words, her mind wouldn't stop. Her mind wouldn't stop spinning. And one of the ways this showed up in Lori's life is she just kind of worked herself to the bone. She had a lot of fear, she had a lot of energy, and she just kind of ran. And she didn't stop. She always needed some stimulation. So if she was home where she could quiet, she would turn on some music, some high energy music to keep going. Or, she would drink a lot of coffee to kind of keep going. And so basically, Lori was just not taking a pause, was not taking the time to quiet herself. And one of the things that this did for her is it actually started to impact her health, right? She started having some health issues. She started having some issues where she wasn't getting enough sleep. And this made her feel more depressed, more anxious, and it even made her angry. So she was just getting amped up with no way to like disengage, to be able to rest. So one of the things I told Lori to do was take some time to start practicing quieting. And so when I would interact with her, we would practice. So I'd say, okay, I'm going to set a timer for 30 seconds. During this 30 seconds, I just want you to take some deep breaths and try to think about something that's meaningful for you. And so I did that very purposely because deep breathing is one of the ways that we quiet our bodies. So what we now know from science is that the act of breathing from your belly and taking deep breaths actually has a calming effect. It activates the parasympathetic branch of your nervous system. So what that means is that it presses the brakes when you take a breather. And so I would walk Lori through this, like, okay, take some deep breaths. Daniel Siegel, a great scientist, he'll actually have people lay on the floor with a book on their belly, and he will have them take some deep breaths that make the book go up and down. So I would even have Lori try this. I'd say, okay, lay on the floor, put a book on your belly, and try to make the book rise and fall. So the goal is to be able to quiet. And initially, she had a lot of resistance to this. Like, why am I doing this? This is really dumb. This is weird. Why am I doing this? But I would have her practice for short increments of time. And then I'd say, so tell me, how does this feel? What do you notice? And yeah, in the beginning, it was hard for her. But I encourage her to keep practicing, taking short pauses throughout the day to breathe, to quiet. Lori had a small group. So I said, you know what? When you meet with a small group, 3 times throughout that small group meeting, take about a 2-minute, 3-minute pause and just everybody quiet. Initially, it was hard and it felt a little uncomfortable. But as she started to do this on her own, as well as with her friends, what happened was life became more manageable. She started to feel more peaceful. She noticed that her mind eventually started slowing down. She didn't focus on all the upsetting stuff all the time. She didn't actually need all the coffee that she drank. She actually was teaching her nervous system and her body to be able to quiet, and that quieting and calming feels peaceful. So, the important step of this process was not only to practice, but then to notice the difference. So, what happened when you did this? And so she started to just actively quiet. She cut down on just the busyness. Life began to feel more manageable for her. She started to feel more peaceful. She noticed that the anxiety was becoming a little more manageable as well. She would say that she stopped to smell the roses more often so she could enjoy life a little more. She could enjoy her relationships. She found that she had more energy as she actually started to rest and pause. So a little bit of practice really paid off here for Lori. And it helped for someone to sit with her and to do this in the beginning, someone who could walk her through it. That really helped, because this can be hard to do on your own. And so as we think about Lori's story, one of the things that really stands out is how a little bit of practice goes a long way. And so having the desire and noticing, wow, I need something because I can't turn my brain off and I can't turn my body's just really tense. Like, okay, something's going on here. I've lost my peace and I need to do something to get my peace back. So we start small when we start practicing this relational skill. And the other thing that was important is sometimes it's hard to access low energy without burning off some high energy. So some people need to go for that run, or they need to ride a bike, or they need to stretch, or they need to do something to better enter into the quieting. The thing I did with Lori that was important was I also had her think about some meaningful, joyful moments in her life. So even activating what we call the skill for appreciation helped Lori to be able to enter in to the quieting state. And so sometimes we need to do that. And our mind and our body will resist us and fight back, because your brain ultimately does what it's been trained to do, good, bad, or ugly. So when your brain and your body start to fight back and you start getting those intrusive thoughts, or the anxiety starts to increase and your body and your muscles become tense, your breathing becomes shallow, that's okay. That's just your body and your brain wanting to do what it's learned to do. So we keep the practice, and we practice with other people, which is really what helps. A little bit of practice will go a long way. And so this practice changed everything for Lori. How Lori felt, her thought life, her behavior. Life was more satisfying when she could rest and when she could quiet herself. So the big question is, where do we go from here? So how can I learn more about this? Well, my friend Marcus Warner and I wrote a book called The 4 Habits of Joy-Filled People, and we have a whole chapter on this calming skill, chapter 3, and how to quiet ourselves. So that'd be a great resource. We also have quieting resources on our Foundational 5 webpage at thrivetoday.org. Thrivetoday.org. A little bit of practice can go a long way.